Welcome to our video. This time, we're going to be building a soda can lighthouse that really lights up. We'll start by tracing and cutting out the tower from a panel of 4 cans. Next, we'll trace the tower windows onto our can material. Then, we'll use a hobby knife to cut them out. Great. Now we need to mark the position of the tower glue tab onto the can material. Now, we use our rounding tool to roll the tower into shape. Finally, we glue it along the glue tab. Perfect. Now we need to reinforce the inside surface with strips of can to strengthen it. Watch how our artist covers the entire inside surface with can, except for the windows we cut out, of course. We do a little bit of rounding to keep the tower in shape, in between gluing can material. Gluing can strips and rounding can be a little time consuming, but will pay off in the end once we start adding to the structure. Finished. Now we're ready to make the lighthouse lower deck and the lower railing. To make the lower deck, we'll cut out 3 pieces from our template, then glue them together. Let's watch and see how this is done. We'll need to use a hobby knife to cut out the center of each piece. we trim off a little extra from this deck piece, since we'll glue it in between the other two pieces. Now, we'll go ahead and glue them together. Finally, we trim off the edges of the deck piece. Looks good. Now we're ready to move on to the lower railing. We'll need a piece of clear vinyl for this step. You can find clear vinyl at your favorite crafting or hobby store, or even on online retailers, such as Amazon. We trace and cut out the piece, then overlay it onto a simple template, so we know where the material goes. All we did was draw some guidelines onto the template using a ruler. Now, all we do is cut out thin strips of can and glue it onto the vinyl, matching the template as we go along. Be sure to use the super glue lightly on the strips of can, or the residue will leak through onto the clear vinyl, causing it to cloud up. Now for the vertical strips. We keep adding the vertical strips, matching our railing template. Okay, now we need to make the second horizontal railing, using more strips of red can. Finished. Now we need to attach the railing to the lower deck piece. We'll do this by making some small L-shaped brackets to attach the two pieces. Watch how our artist accomplishes this. Notice how he's gluing the L brackets to the inside, lower edge of the railing piece. You'll also notice that they're right behind the vertical railing pieces that we glued to the front of the clear vinyl. This way, they won't be visible when we glue the two pieces together. Okay, done. Now, we glue the two pieces together by gluing the bottom half of the L brackets to the outside edge of the lower deck piece, one bracket at a time. And we're done. Now we test fit the lower deck to the tower piece. Next we trace and cut out the base piece. This piece will go on top of the lower deck inside of the railing piece. We trim the piece to make sure we have it accurately cut out. Now, we mark the glue tab onto the can material using a ballpoint pen. Then we roll the piece and glue it onto the glue tab. Next, we move on to the upper deck piece. You can see, we've already cut it out. All that's left to do is glue it together just like we did the lower deck piece. We trim the reinforcing deck pieces so they fit inside of the outer ones. Then we glue them together. We trim the outer edges of the deck piece as needed. Next we move on to the upper railing piece. Our artist cuts out the upper railing from the clear vinyl material, using a pair of 5-inch precision scissors. Next, he overlays the vinyl over top our railing template, then starts gluing can over the vinyl to match the pattern. This is a simple pattern that can be made by using a ruler to line the template piece for the railing. Perfect. The first horizontal line is complete. Now he moves on to the second. Great. Now, we work on the shorter vertical railing lines. Again, we have to be careful with the amount of glue we're using, or else the vinyl will start to turn white from the glue residue. Next, our artist trims off the vertical railing lines to match the vinyl piece. Okay, we're ready to attach the upper railing piece to the upper deck. We'll use the same L bracket technique to assemble the pieces. Let's watch. Again, our artist is attaching the small L brackets, bent at a 90-degree angle, to the inside surface of the clear vinyl railing, right behind the vertical railing pieces we glued onto the vinyl. This way, they won't be seen. Done. Now, we glue the railing piece to the outside edge of the upper deck piece, using the L brackets, one at a time. Great! The upper deck and railing is complete. Next, we move on to the lamp room. We'll use the clear vinyl for this piece too. First, we trace the lamp room onto the clear vinyl, then we'll cut it out. We overlay it on top of our template, then we start gluing strips of can to match it. Just as we did with the deck pieces, we'll glue both horizontal and vertical strips of can to the clear vinyl to create the lamp room piece. And now the vertical strips of can. We'll make these a little thicker than the deck pieces, as we'll need the lamp room to hold an angled shape to accommodate the roof piece, in later steps. Now we test fit the lamp room to the top of our assembly, then we get working on the roof piece. Next, we overlay the template piece over the can, using it as a guide to make all of the folds. Then we glue the piece on the glue tab to form the roof. Then, we test fit it to the rest of the pieces we've crafted. Now we're ready to glue all of the pieces into position. For this step, we're going to use L brackets to help us join everything together. We'll start from the lower deck and railing and work our way to the top. Now we test fit the piece. We'll use an ultra fine point marker to mark the final position, before we glue it. We glue the lower deck and lower railing to the tower. Now, we're on to the tower base piece. We'll use L brackets to affix this piece as well. Next, we test fit the base piece to the top of the lower deck. And then we glue it into position. The upper deck and railing is next. We first test fit our LED tea light to the center of the piece. Then we glue L brackets to the top of the base piece. At this point, we test fit the upper deck and railing. We can either opt to glue the piece into position, or as we'll show shortly, we can opt to make the piece removable, in case we need to change the T-light out. Either way, we need to test fit the T-light, then we glue it to the opening in the upper deck using strips of can. We got these T-lights from the dollar store. These will give our lighthouse a realistic glow. We test the T-light to make sure it works, then we glue it into position. Next, we glue L brackets to the inside bottom edges of the lamp room. We place them right behind the can, so they stay hidden. We test fit the roof piece, then we glue craft foam to the upper edge of the lamp room, so we can attach the two pieces. Once we have the foam in place, we glue the roof to the top of the lamp room. Next, we hole punch a piece of foam to attach the lightning rod piece to the top of the roof. You can use a map pin for this piece, but we opted to print one out using our 3D printer. We glue the lamp room to the top of the upper deck, then we glue the lightning rod to the roof. Now here's the alternate method. Instead of gluing the lamp room to the base piece, we'll make it removable, so we can easily change out the T-light, or turn it off, and on to display our working lighthouse. We cut out a craft foam ring and cut a hole in the center, large enough to slide it over the T-light. Then we just gently press the entire assembly onto the base piece, instead of gluing it on. Let's watch and see how our artist makes this work. First, he test fits the ring to the base piece and trims it to fit. Then he slides it over the T-light and presses it onto the base piece. He does some final trimming to the foam ring, then test fits it and finally glues it to the underside of the upper railing piece, around the T-light. Then he tests the T-light to make sure our lighthouse really lights up. And it does. Next, our artist uses the templates provided to trace and cut out the lighthouse workroom and mudroom. He'll be using A&W root beer cans, since the cans have a wood panel appearance. He starts by making all of the folds, along the solid lines, for the mudroom. Next, he reinforces the inside surfaces with strips of can, so the pieces don't bend or warp. Now he traces, and cuts out the mudroom roof piece. Then he folds the piece along the solid lines. He test fits it to the mudroom, then reinforces the piece with strips of can. Here, you can see that he's already cut out the workroom and folded it. Now this piece gets reinforced with strips of can. Now our artist traces and cuts out the workroom, roof piece. Next, he makes the folds along the solid lines on the template. Then he reinforces the piece with strips of can. He test fits the roof piece onto the workroom. Then, he glues it into position. He test fits the mudroom to the side of the workroom, then glues the mudroom roof into position. And finally glues the two pieces together. Now he does his first test fit of the room assembly to the lighthouse, to see how everything goes together. Next, our artist crafts a base piece for the entire assembly. This base piece is made from a pair of can sheets consisting of 2 cans each, reinforced with strips of can. Now he wraps 2 more cans around the edges, to create a nice flat, level surface. Then he makes sure the entire assembly fits. Then he adds some fine details, such as windows and doors. And finally he adds 2 windows to the lighthouse tower. Finally, our artist prepares to glue the lighthouse and workroom assembly to the newly created base. Again, he'll be using L brackets to accomplish this. He starts with our lighthouse. He dabs glue onto the L brackets, then glues the lighthouse into position on the base. Then he starts on the workroom and mudroom next. He test fits the room assembly, then dabs glue on the roof glue tabs, and the L brackets, then glues it into position. Then test the lighthouse. It works. And check out our lighthouse, when the lights are off. Looks cool, doesn't it? Best of all, this is a simple and easy project anyone can try. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.